Hello, and Merry Christmas to you all, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In the first story, you'll find out what Karen got for not getting out of the way. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Even in the cattle country, you can't escape Karens. I work as a ranch hand on my girlfriend's family ranch. The closest town has a population of less than 300 just for scale. It's one of the larger ones in the immediate area, over several thousand acres and hundreds of cows. Most graze in the pasture, but there are always some that are fed hay in the barnyard. Unfortunately, we had run out of our stockpile, so we called around to find who had hay to spare, and I was quickly dispatched to fetch. The only place that had hay available was a family-run feed store/ranch about halfway between us and what's the closest city. Even cattle country's not immune to sprawl, as farms are slowly turned into estates for bored Karens to move into with their high-priced lawyer husbands. This story involves just such a Karen. Our cast: me, a ranch hand dressed in a stereotypically excessive amount of denim with a Carhartt ball cap and work boots. Karen, your middle-aged white woman dressed to the gills in her English riding outfit, complete with riding crop and helmet. The type of woman to make her husband move to the country so she can ride her horse easier, but then get angry that the farm next door is too loud, what with all the farming and such. FYI, don't make a fool of yourself in such extremely small towns. No one has anything better to do than gossip. Now that our backdrop is set, I'll get to the point. I'd arrived at the feed store to pick up the hay. The store had already started to stack my order, 120 bales, outside for me, as this was going to take 3 trips to complete. I paid for my whole order, and the first and second trips went without issue. I was thinking it was going to be an easy day of stacking hay and driving, and that I'd be done early. If only I knew what awaited me on my third trip. I pulled my beat-up Sierra back into the feed store for the third time that day. The sun hung low in the sky and beat down on my neck as I began to load my final bales. I'm sweating away the final hours of the day when a white Escalade EXT pulls down the dirt driveway. For those that don't know, it's Cadillac's attempt to turn an SUV into a pickup without changing any of the SUV parts. As anyone that's driven a proper utility/work truck will tell you, it's useless for anything but looking fancy and bragging that you have a pickup at the country club. At first, I pay it no mind and keep loading my bales. It pulls up near my truck. After a pregnant pause, which I could only assume was to straighten her hair and touch up her makeup, Karen emerges from her useless mobile and proceeds to stare at me silently. I give her a nod howdy and keep loading my bales. After each bale, she stamps her fine leather boots in the dirt louder and louder. After 5 bales, Karen had enough. "Well, aren't you going to help me? I would like to buy some hay," she basically yells at me. "No, but I'm sure someone inside can." "Load 10 of these in my not pickup while I go inside to pay," she said as she pointed at my yet-to-be-loaded pile. I tell her no, as they're my bales and I don't work at the feed store. "Yes, you do. You're the hand that loads them. Just do your job and stop being lazy." She turns and stomps off inside, muttering about rude employees. How I was being lazy by loading my own bales, I'll never know. She reemerges as I'm loading the final bales from my pile onto the top of my truck. Seeing the pile gone and none on her pickup, she flies into a rage. "Why didn't you load mine? All you stupid rednecks are the same and don't know how to listen." I'm a redhead and burn quite easily, so at that point in the day, I did actually have a sunburn on my neck. She rushes up to me as I again tell her that I do not, in fact, work at the feed store. I throw the final bale onto the top of the stack of my truck. Loading complete, I brush past her and climb into my truck. She screams, "I won't let you leave till I get my hay." She runs to her still empty 2-wheel drive pickup and drives it to the mouth of the driveway and parks across it, blocking the entire entrance. She smugly looks at me from the driver's seat and yells, "Now give me my hay." Now, the driveway was flanked on either side by muddy ruts filled with rain from the night before. To a Karen, it would seem impassable, but to a rancher, it's something you drive across multiple times on most days. As Karen sat smugly in the driver's seat thinking she'd bested me, I simply reached down and threw my truck into 4 high, gunned the motor, and drove through the mud to get around her, down the rest of the driveway, and onto the main road. The best part was that my front tire splashed the mud high enough to cover Karen herself, as she had left her window open and managed to get herself stuck as she tried to follow me down the drive. It amazes me that people really can be this entitled. If someone tells you they don't work here, why would you argue with them? It was unnecessary on Karen's part to block the driveway of our OP, but I'm glad she got what she deserved at the end. And our second story. Just give the weekly deal? Okay. The background. Many moons ago, I worked at a pizza place, part of a national franchise in a diverse community. It was my first job and I enjoyed it, though mostly it was the satisfaction of having my first job. I worked inside taking orders and making them. After a few days, I was in an odd space. You see, I was new enough to not have a solid handle on everything, but I was there long enough that the manager expected me to be able to do everything already. So when I kept taking too long recording orders, my manager began getting frustrated. I was only supposed to be taking 3 minutes at most, but I often went over 5 minutes over the phone. Remember how I said we were a diverse community? Many customers had issues speaking English, and even though I was bilingual, there were half a dozen languages being spoken here. Some were new to ordering pizza too. Some were just indecisive. As a result, a lot of time was spent speaking slower than usual, explaining everything in detail, or waiting for them to decide. I understood, but my manager was upset at my inefficiency and didn't want to hear it. One day, I got a call and spent 7 minutes explaining everything to a guy who was new to ordering over the phone in general, going over details, toppings, menu items, prices, etc. He had a lot of questions. He also spoke English as a second language, so sometimes he didn't understand what some words meant. Not only that, but he was out of the area. I had to explain that too, so he decided to come pick it up. He thanked me for being understanding and placed his order. I even got a tip for being patient when he came to pick it up. My manager, meanwhile, was mad. This was messing up her metrics too, so she scolded me for taking so long. I explained the sheer amount of questions he had and barriers and noted that I wasn't quiet at any moment and kept amending the order. She wouldn't listen and told me it shouldn't take that long, just give them the deals, that's usually enough. Just give them the specials? Okay, we're running a special all week. Buy one large 5-topping for a steep discount, except for the special pizzas, which come with specific toppings. Example, the veggie pizza or Philly cheesesteak pizza, which have specific toppings. Those were exempt, despite having 5 toppings or less. It was arbitrary, but I followed orders. I just gave them the deals anyways, even if it meant sidestepping this. So whenever a customer called ordering a special pizza, I would just put it in as a custom pizza that just so happened to have the same toppings as a special, but didn't have the name attached. Therefore, everyone got a steep discount. Some customers were surprised since they were told the deal didn't apply to the specials, but it was an arbitrary rule anyway, so they weren't keen on arguing. Since they were saving money, the indecisive ones decided to just get both sometimes, so calls were quicker. Cheap pizza all around. The manager noticed and got mad at me, arguing that I was just stealing from myself for missing out on the profits. Whatever, I thought, I get paid hourly regardless of your profits. I just told her I was just giving them the deals, but the system wouldn't let me. She knew something was up, but just told me the special pizzas don't apply even if they have 5 toppings or less. The fallout. A few days later, the deal was removed, and I was on thin ice, but we got a nice increase in customers who kept trying to take advantage of the deal. The increase in sales helped offset the large dip in revenue from me liberally providing discounts. Even when I told them the manager specifically reaffirmed the special pizzas don't apply, they understood that it was too good to last and just ordered anyways. Also, a customer called who was extremely indecisive and curious about our deals. He also had poor English that made certain requests rather confusing to understand. I spent 5 minutes on the phone until the manager told me to just pass her the phone and she'd handle it. I did as I was told and just made pizzas and handled other tasks. I noticed she wouldn't help me, and every time I looked back, she'd be on the phone. Turned out the guy was on the phone for 20 minutes asking questions and being indecisive, and in the end ordered nothing. After that, she began being more understanding of me. I love how not meeting unreasonable metrics is never due to the ridiculous ask in the eyes of management. It's always the employee's fault. absolutely ridiculous that people can get to a management position in the service industry without understanding how to provide even basic service, much less excellent service that convinces people to come back. And our last story. Taught my boss a lesson. So I was a junior, but doing senior level duties, including proposal writing and monitoring budgets and leading a team. I was in line for a supervisor promotion. Boss man promoted someone else over me instead, a guy who was at least senior. Boss man also had the nerve to tell me that I should still do newly minted supervisor's paperwork. I told him I expect a $10K raise. When you do the math, that was only an extra $800 a month. That's it. He said, "No, you're not worth an extra $800. I will never pay you that money." And did the same song and dance of gaslighting me. You're not in team rhythm, and you're not as good at your job as you think you are. He made a Pikachu face when I stopped doing all the extra crap. Then his jaw really dropped to the floor when I got a job at Facebook, making nearly double, and he was saving $60K a year. Good job, boss man. Except, of course, now he didn't have anybody doing all the extra duties I was, nobody to do his paperwork. He also had to go hire someone else from the market who heard I asked for $80K. Someone he had to train from scratch, too. Training a replacement is a third of the salary, so he saved himself $800, but then had to burn through $30K training costs, and paying someone an additional $40K a year, an additional $3K a month anyway. And last I heard, he's going to have to start laying people off come the 13th of February. Great job, AH. You played yourself. Brilliant. OP's boss played a stupid game and now has to deal with his stupid prize. Not everyone can afford to leave when they're unhappy with something at work. Very good that our OP did. I would have done the same thing. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.